Hey, what's up, everyone? We got a good show for you guys today. We're going to get into everything going on with the Saints at the bye and kind of do a holistic review of where things are at and where they go from here. What do they do with coaching? What's the future of that? And we're going to get into a whole lot of other topics. We are coming to you from the Better Call Bado podcast studio, and we are presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Hardhide is an 86 proof blend of 3-year-old wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries blended in New Orleans. It is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. And if you need legal help with any of the following: car wrecks, offshore injuries, 18-wheeler collisions, Maritime Jones Act, hurricane and storm claims, you better call Bado at 504-323-7777 or 985-303-7777 for your free consultation and case review. And check out our guys, Firehouse Subs. We're going to be there Saturday at 2 p.m. for a live event. Make sure you come through, get a sub, talk to us. There's going to be a big giveaway and a whole bunch of other stuff. Firehouse Subs, Veterans Boulevard location. Check us out there. All right, let's get into the show.
All right. What's up, Nick? I'm thinking your event Saturday, Hardhide might need to show up and just give everybody a little
pour some whiskey with the Firehouse Subs. Yeah, check them out though. Hardhide, man. They're in Rouse's. They're getting into every grocery store right now. Big launch going on, and as Kevin said, our event Saturday, Firehouse Subs, 2 p.m. Veterans Boulevard location. I don't know if there's going to be Hardhide there, but you need a Hardhide to get through the season.
Yeah, I'm about to say they might need to just come and just help everybody out with a little like therapy, like a little. I call it liquid therapy. My bad, But if you do, then we do not want you calling BETTER after that because you probably got a little something in your system that ain't what we need you doing. But shout out to our sponsors. We appreciate you guys as always. So let's get into it, man. It's so many places to start. I'm just gonna start like
you're giggling like you're on the Hardhide, man. Let's get it together. You gotta tighten up a little bit.
No, I know, man.
Can you touch your nose with your left hand? I don't know.
slowly. I've done that a few times and I've passed it every single time. I always I guess I drive like I'm like that, but I'm never intoxicated driving. Okay, so it's this rock bottom. I was just floating if I wanted to ask you that question. It's a little talk showy, but is it rock bottom, man? Have they hit rock bottom?
No, man. They can get much worse than this. I mean, they could lose they could lose the rest of these games. I mean, if they get smoked by the Falcons at home, I think that's going to be a really ugly scene. I mean, you get smoked by a rookie, by the Falcons in the dome. I think the crowds could start looking different. I mean, there is a lot more for this to go down. So it could definitely be a lot worse than it is. I mean, the team's still playing hard. They're competitive. They were in this game until they weren't, for basically the whole game, 59-58 on the clock. The last 2 seconds was really when they lost hope in it. So, I mean, I think things can get much, much, much worse. I mean, the effort's still there. If the effort bottoms out, I mean, that's rock bottom.
It's
right now it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be catastrophic. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's rock bottom. I think it's just the lowest point it's been in, however many years. And yeah, it's just crazy, man. I was thinking about like the expectation level at the beginning of the season, and you juxtapose it against to like where they are now, and like things have just, it's been crazy, man. It's not been a good year. Let's get into DA, man. I think that's, it's right there in front of everybody, right? What's your thoughts on his decision making in this game? Is that something that you think, is room for to be criticized there, or is it like, hey, the offense didn't show up and the defense broke down at the middle and that at the end of the games, and that's how football games turn out somehow? So how do you what's your thoughts on like how he coached this game and some of the decisions that he came to?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this for almost 5 days removed from the game, so it's a big hindsight analysis type situation. I think there were a bunch of things in this game that could have been different, that should have been different, that could have changed a little bit. You know, I the third down pass is one that kind of stands out right off the bat, and that's a play I went through it in my film study. If you go back and you watch how that play was run every single time since 2018, fullback's going out on the other side of the play to the right, and the slant's on the back side of the play. And the reason for that is if you are a right-handed quarterback, to get the fullback out of the flat, you kind of have to let the edge rusher go there. You're kind of selling it, so you're getting them out of position. You're creating space, and you can hit the pass over them. And you're seeing that coming if you're the quarterback. Now, if you want to go off that, you have the outlet on the backside slant, and you just kind of cut your drop off. You don't take the full 3-step drop there. You kind of take a 1-step and hit it. And that's a play that Drew always hit the Mike Thomas. Every single time, though, since 2018, I went back, I looked at it. I mean, is it possible that I missed one somewhere? Possibly, but I found multiple examples of that play to the right side of the field. For some reason, when they ran it in this game, it was flipped to the left side, and you got the fullback coming out on the left. So if you're a right-handed quarterback, you got to take your drop. You're selling the play action right there a little bit. The guy's spilling out to the left. You got to come back, turn, see the pass rusher, and try to get the pass out over him. It's a lot to do to that side of the field. And I think in that situation, Andy Dalton probably panicked a little bit and was just like, you know what? I like this over here. I'm going to try to hit it to Callaway. I'm going to go to this instead of the main design. Now, it worked. Prentice is open over there, but I think that's an extremely difficult pass to get to him. So that's a tough play to run that way flipped on third and one right there.
Yeah.
I think you can pass the ball there. I mean, I'm not, I think there's a passer that probably works. You should probably run it given the situation of the game. But if you want to pass it, you've been killing them with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed the whole game. And you have injuries in the Tampa secondary. So you're looking at it like, all right, we got these fast guys out there. And that's why Rashid was playing so much in this game. You get your 2-4-3 guys out there up against cornerbacks that can't really run. And you want to get them into a situation where they're just running by guys and you're beating them. And it worked the whole game. If you want to throw there, like rely on your strength, the thing that's worked the whole time. I'm not sure I agree with the idea of throwing a pass to a guy. Granted, number one receiver last year, led the team in receiving. This year has been inactive 2 out of the last 3 games. You put him in here in the most critical situation of the season, one of the most critical plays. In hindsight, it ended up being one of the most critical plays, maybe not in the moment, but still, you get a first down, you win. Why are you going to him and I got to have a play? I just don't get it. He had played 11 snaps in the game to that point. It's just, and that's kind of my thing with them throughout the season is that I think in a lot of critical moments, and I'm sorry for the 8-minute answer here, a lot of critical moments, they've went to players who aren't kind of the strength of the team. Like Pittsburgh, I had a big issue with them not necessarily running the ball in a certain situation, but running the ball twice in a row behind 3 injured offensive linemen.
Yeah.
That's not your team in that game. Why are you doing that? What? Another time they in that game they went deep to Kevin White. Like, why are you going deep to Kevin White in this situation? It's just something that we've kind of seen reoccur a few times throughout the season. It's just like, I get that you have all these personnel packages and you're trying to outsmart everybody with who's on the field and all this other stuff. But like sometimes just let your players go make plays and rely on them, especially when you aren't this team that's, you just got to win. You got to win how you got to win. And I would rather lose throwing the ball to Chris Olave, not on that particular route, on a different route. I would rather lose a game throwing the ball to Chris Olave or running it with Alvin Kamara than throwing it to Marquez Callaway in that situation. So stuff like that is mind-boggling. 12 men in the huddles, mind-boggling to me. I mean, Sean Payton, and I could only look back to 2010 through 2021, 12 seasons of games, 11 because he missed the one.
Mm-hmm.
Even the year he was out, they didn't have one, though. So the Sean influence was still there to some degree. They did not have an offensive 12 men on the field penalty. That whole entire
Really?
stretch,
Wow.
that whole entire stretch.
I didn't know that.
Single one. And those are the details. They're coaching the details. It's Drew's never going into the huddle. You used to see him. He'd always be way back from the huddle until everybody was in there. And he was probably like the second line of defense on that. Okay, going to count it. Okay, they don't have him. All right, I'm getting out. So I'm not stepping into the huddle. Sean would kill people for that. I think that kind of pressure matters. I think it's a big deal. So, it's just little things like that are killing them. And it's December now, so I mean, it is something that I think you got to start to worry: is it going to get fixed? And I think it's probably past the point of fixing at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if it can be fixed at this point. It's almost like the DNA of the team is to shoot itself in the foot and make these. And I mean, listen, The purpose of the spot is not to come here and like just trash the Saints, because I don't think that I don't think I don't think it's useful, at least for what we provide. But I mean, the fact of the matter is this is a team that consistently shoots itself in the foot over and over and over and over and over again. And after a certain amount of time, then that just becomes the personality of the team, and it becomes the norm. And I think it's almost to the point is, I think relatively speaking, it's pretty much at that point right now. So the interesting thing that that I'm trying to get my thoughts about on this game, and I've been thinking about it since the game ended, and I haven't really landed in a place. So maybe you can help me. Maybe this is a therapy session for for everybody. I don't know, right? But you know, you could say over recently the defense has been playing much better. I thought the defense played relatively well this game. At the end, they gave some stuff up. But when you get into those situations, whatever happened before can just totally be thrown out the window in those 2 minutes. In those, I think they was down by 16-3 with 3 minutes left, right? And they go in to hurry up and Tom Brady do his thing. It's a different ball game at that point. Everything that happened before is gone. And so, a lot of the reasoning for the loss in this game was on the offensive side, right? And you could say the defense is maybe doing. If you hold Tampa to 16 points, I think any NFL team to 16 points, I think a defensive coordinator says, "Hey, man, offense, I need you guys to," I think that's a pretty good defense. And so, is it a case where DA needs to have his input more on the offensive side of the ball because the decision making over there isn't good? Is he leaving that to Pete? Or you can't just say DA's defense is playing well. He's the head coach, right? So that's out the window. When you're a defensive coordinator, you have that luxury. So like how do you parse the fact that he's a defensive minded guy, the guys on his side of the ball are doing the job? Is it because he's just not ready to be managing the game at a head coach level, and those type of things take time? What is it? Do you see this with new coaches, or is this something that new coaches grow through? Like, how do you see, just the offensive mismanagement with a guy that's a defensive coach?
I don't think he should get more involved over there. I think that there's probably, at the end of the season, I think you got to look at some of that and make a decision on what your offense is going to be, who's going to run it, all
Yeah.
that stuff. I think there's bigger decisions there. I think he is involved on that side of the ball, though. At practice, we see him on that side of the field. I think he said after the game he should have stepped in on that 3rd and 1 and ran the ball. Maybe you get more involved there a little bit, but at a certain level, you empower people, and then it's on you to for those people to do their job. And then if they aren't, you got to look at it and you make a change then. But, they're in December at this point. I don't think making a change right now really accomplishes anything. I think you kind of just play out the string where you're at, and then you lick your wounds at the end of the season and figure out where you go forward. Maybe, I don't know, if you had somebody on staff that you thought, hey, like, can Doug Marrone be the OC? Let's see. And, maybe you try that out. But
Yeah.
I think that they got to look for answers this offseason if they decide to make changes. And I think they have to make some. You can't just do this again.
Bag. Yeah,
You can't just do
bag.
this again. So if DA is still the head coach, I think he has to go into the offseason, look at everything, decide, all right, is my special teams coordinator here? Is my offensive coordinator still here? Do I still keep going forward with 2 defensive coordinators? I still
Yeah.
think that's a little bit of a overblown thing, because DA is ultimately the defensive coordinator of all of it. But I don't think that you should be empowering, 45 people to have a voice in a room either. So I think you kind of got to, look at that and say, is there too much noise here? Do we dial it back? Is this working? Am I allowing too much input? I think input's good, but at a certain point, you got to limit, where
The
all
buck
that
stops
noise
with
is
the head
coming from.
coach,
Yeah,
right? The buck
right.
stops with the head coach. It has
Right.
to, yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just something you evaluate all of it, whether it's right or wrong. You decide maybe 2 DCs is still the right move. I don't know. It's something he's got a soul search. But if you do make changes, I think that they need to look at people that aren't connected to this. Like, I think it's time to okay, we tried to keep it together. We tried to maintain the Sean Payton culture. We tried to build on last year. We thought if we did everything the same, it's going to be better if our players get healthy and all that. That was their thought process. Okay, I get it. I think it made logic. And if you have someone in the building in a system that you think works and you think all this stuff is going to turn around and change it, I get it. It makes sense. But as soon as you realize that isn't going to work, I think that's when you got to start making decisions, and you have to fix the problem. And then, you don't just stay sunken into it. And that might not be getting rid of everybody. It might be getting rid of some people. And again, if they get rid of some people, you got to go outside. You got to look for new voices, new ideas, new ways to do things. I think that there's probably, uh, a solid thought to maybe trying a different offensive approach if you do something different next year. I think this offense works. I think it's still going to be effective. We're going to see it work wherever Sean goes. But I think that the league is changing, the game's changing. You're going to have new quarterbacks in. You have this really expansive playbook in this system that's kind of frightening for people, and it's long. There's a lot of verbiage, and I just think that there's a way to simplify it and do it a little bit differently. And honestly, if you look at their offense, it's not the same. They don't run it the same way they used to. It's different. I mean, it is different. Their core principles are different. The things they're doing are different. I think the verbiage in the core construct is still there, but the way things are coming together is significantly different. They've run 5 screens this year to their running backs out of the backfield. They've thrown 5 passes to running backs out of the backfield on screens. The whole entire season, 5. 3 to Alvin. He has 41 yards on those 3
42
plays.
yards. Well, 41, 42. Okay, yeah.
41, 42. Yeah. 5 the whole entire season. They were never below, I think, 24 from 2017 till this year. In some seasons they were at like 37. So like where is that?
This system hasn't really worked outside of New Orleans for the most part when you look at it. I mean, you could say maybe in San Diego they got a little something going on, but for the most part,
I got a theory for that. Can I interject real quick? Like I think part of that is that Sean and Pete held those jobs for so long and nobody was coming through the ranks. So like if there were young people coming through the ranks, you would add churn there and then people would have went on and spread the system and it would have become probably more influential and more effective. The only person that really ever had a shot at taking it anywhere else was Joe Lombardi. But like, you look at McVay, like his guys are coming up and going. They're coming up and going. They're coming up and going. Shanahan, same thing. So like there's that, it spreads and there's influence and, not everybody that gets a job is going to be good. And that's one thing that I would warn to people. Like the idea of like getting rid of the head coach and everybody, like I'm not saying they should keep them, and this is absolutely not a reason to keep anyone, but it is really hard to hire people and know that they're going to, I don't think anybody knows who's going to be a good head coach. You do your best. You look at the factors that you think are valuable. You hire people. If there was like a good process for hiring head coaches, there wouldn't be so many failures. You know what I mean? So like, it's hard to know. So one guy leaving here and taking the offense somewhere else and it kind of, just being okay. I don't know if that's full evidence on the entire system because there's really only been 3 people in the whole world that I think can really
well,
kind of
one of the guys that's supposed to be the brain trust behind it is running the offense for the Saints this year, and it doesn't look good. So,
but that could be more him than the system.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? I mean, I can make a case for, man, he don't have the weapons and the guy to run. Maybe the system works when you got, a certain type of quarterback and a certain type of player, right? I mean, I think it's really subjective, and there's no real answer to it.
That's
but
fair.
it does stand out. It's something that kind of stands out, and yeah, it's just not working this year, right? And it just goes like the precision that the offense was known for. Like the best things about the offense was, you had Drew Brees, right? You had a Hall of Fame quarterback and one of the best offensive play callers in NFL history. So the bar is extremely high, right? That's just off the rip. When you lose Sean Payton and you lose Drew Brees been going a couple of years, but you get the point. Yeah, it's not going to be the same, right? It's not going to be the same. I just don't think people expect it to be, as bad as it is, which, injuries play a part to it. And, there's a lot of other things that go into it. But yeah, it's just interesting that if you're looking at this, if you're looking at DA and you saying, okay, well, if his defense is improving like it seems to be and getting back to what it was for the remainder of the season and the offense is stagnant, I've seen a thought process that says, hey, all right, well, you can fix the offense and then continue to improve on the defense. I don't think I subscribe to that because I think the head coach is the head coach, and I think some of the decision making and stuff like that has to come into it. But let's
talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, give me your thoughts why you don't think it can work, and then I'll respond.
Well, because I think that at the end of the day, I don't think a head coach can just turn over this one side of the ball. I think not, and you can tell me if this is true. I think Sean kind of did that with Greg Williams. That sometimes I think it led to some trouble and with him getting suspended. And I think he became more involved. I think defensively, you're in the building, you were in the building, you know better than me, but he became more involved defensively as he became a better head coach. And I mean, listen, the early Sean Payton coach was not the coach that Sean Payton was like last year. He grew, right? He had to become Sean Payton, even though he was good from the start. You could tell he'd be good. He grew to be that coach. And so I think with the NFL today, I just think that a head coach has to be the head coach of a team. I don't think you need to be calling offensive plays, but I think, on the 3rd and 1, and if you see a guy if you're gonna run a play flip to the other side to a wide receiver who ain't played and who's been inactive for the past 2.5, 3 games, I think that's a good time for a head coach to say, hey, this is not a winning play, right? And the fact that they say out of winning and called the run play, I don't think that's the right train of thought neither. I don't think it's just, we should have ran a run. I think it's just like, no, that's the wrong play. And it's a difference between saying I'm gonna run a different play versus the play that we ran was wrong, right? I don't think the pass was the wrong play. I just think that a slant to Marquez Callaway was the wrong play, right? And so you got Alvin Kamara on the field, Chris Olave, Shaheed, Taysom Hill, Jawan Johnson. There's a bunch of other guys. Well, Jawan, I don't think he wasn't active, but you get it. There's a bunch of other guys who I think could have had the ball there. So I think a head coach has a place there, whether you're on, if your offensive coach and the defense is playing man when they should be in zone, when, Drew Brees had an Instagram post about, hey, you got inside leverage on the, et cetera. I sent it to you. And it's like, hey, an offensive coach should be able to overturn a defensive call if he doesn't think that it's a game-winning play. And so I don't think that you can just turn over one side of the ball to someone else, because you basically taking 1/3 of the game and putting that on someone else, and you're probably doing the same with special teams too. So I just think you can't have a limited scope as a head coach. I think you have to oversee the team. You have to manage the team. Belichick does it. The best one do it. The best coaches do it. But, I think it's like you said, it's hard to find a coach that's that good. And so that's my thoughts on it. Just it has to be, you have to head coach, you have to lead the team, not just one side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the overarching point. You got to agree with the team, and then there's got to be situations where you say, no, we aren't running that. At the same time, though, I think that your OC does have to be someone that can run the offense, and the head coach shouldn't have to be micromanaging every single decision, because if he is, then you got the wrong guy, and it's just it's not the right situation to be in. I think that they could. I'm just saying in theory, and I'm like always so reluctant to say anything about this
so
team,
hard
because
to talk about this
we
team.
have reached a point where it has become so just one slanted emphasis. Every single thing that happens is on the coach. And if you bring up anything, if you say, well, shoot, like Olave dropped the pass, it's like, you're making excuses. Like, I'm not making excuses. I'm not defending anyone. We're just speaking in theory right here. And just in theory, I think there is a possibility where in an alternate universe, like if there is, and I think it's putting a lot on the offense right now. I think they've played a lot of good games, and the defense had a bunch of bad games, and now we're kind of in a place where it's kind of like flipped on its head a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a place where DA goes away and licks his wounds, figures out what he did wrong, has some epiphany on, all right, these 3 things I could do better, and he figures out how to do them. And then they get an offensive coordinator who's just really, really good at what he does. And I think that they could be a little bit better. I don't know if that's the winning answer. I don't know if that's the right answer. But I think it is possible that they could improve to some degree if, everything kind of comes together in a different type of way.
They improve. I mean, listen, I have my criticisms of DA, right? I have my criticisms of DA. Anyone who's watching football should. I'm pretty sure DA has his own criticisms of himself, right? But and this is just a fact, right? I'm not even stating my opinion yet, but he's dealing with some things that most head coaches don't have to deal with, right? And that's just the fact of the matter. Like, the level of injuries that this team has had is significant. That's just a fact. It's hard to win, with a team that hurt, right? Your best player on defense, the guy that changes your entire scheme, hasn't been playing. I don't even know the last time Marshawn played a game. I don't know how many games he's missed at
7
this
or
point.
8. 7 or
Yeah,
8.
it's a lot, right? The offensive line has been, those guys have been healthy. You got, injuries all over the place at wide receiver, at weapons, at tight end. So listen, DA has his fair share, and everybody's going to get everybody's going to get blamed at some point, right? We're going to talk about every single aspect of why this team hasn't been successful, but one of them is just availability, right? And that's something that you got to take into account. I think that like Chris Olave dropping that pass, right? The Bucks didn't have some of the mistakes that maybe the Saints had also, right? So it's like, there's just like, you expect Chris Olave to make that catch. I'm bringing this up because you brought that up. And so there are some things that I don't want to say out of his control, but that are just things that you have to deal with, that I think that has given him a bad hand.
Yeah.
And I think that,
Just to your point right there, like the coaching though should have been able to overcome the drop.
That's what I was about to get at. Yeah, that was my next point. Yeah, like you that's still not an excuse for the stuff that the coaching didn't do right, because you can make a case if the coaching was better, then you would have overcome those things. But it makes it harder. Your margin of error shrinks when those things happen, and your coaching has to be able to cover it. And I think that he's not at a point where he's not a level of coach where he can out coach the errors that he had. And clearly that was something that Sean, he was able to prove, because they were winning games with just as bad as an offense last year, maybe worse, right, in some games. And so, he gets his share of the blame there. But like I said, there's some things that makes it hard for him, and there's some things he's doing that doesn't help the overall team.
Yeah, like the conversation can be, oh, wow, these injuries are significant and they're impacting the team.
Mm-hmm.
Player execution at times has not been as good as it should have been. And there's probably an argument of, okay, well, how much of that goes to coaching? And probably some of it. But I mean,
significant part.
Your first round pick, a guy like Jarvis, Chris Olave, a guy like Jarvis Landry, like you should be able to expect those guys to catch passes, So I don't know how much of that is actually on coaching on that specific one, but maybe there's probably some degree of it, and then also those first two things can be true. Well, also the coaching
coaching can be bad too, just with those. Yeah, exactly.
So I like all these things can be contributing to losses, and saying like Marshawn Lattimore is injured is not making an excuse. It's just saying Marshawn is injured and that is a factor. And then if your coaching is at a certain level, if you do have all these other people, maybe it helps a little bit to overcome some of this over here. But at the end of the day, if you think your coaching isn't there on either side of the ball, on special teams as well, like that's a problem. And that's where it's got to, that's where stuff has to get fixed. So that I think Mickey has major questions to answer this offseason. They got to figure out, I think if DA stays, I think there's going to be, there's going to be staff changes. There's just going to be. It's just reality. That's how it's going to end up playing out, and they got to figure that out. So, I don't know.
I just want to say, as the self-appointed VP of Communications for NewOrleans.Football, that when we talk about a player being injured, that doesn't mean that the coaching is perfect. And if we say that the coaching is bad, that doesn't mean that the players are doing their job neither, right? I just want to put that out there, that we have to talk about it all, and neither one is given a pass for another. It's just one of the factors that is, that's making this season making the season problematic for the Saints. And so,
I was talking to someone on Twitter last night, and like I literally like on this topic, and I had like a tweet, and I said like, it's just it's annoying that you can't just say like, okay, it's just what I just said, like, oh, this is a factor for this, and it's not making an excuse for DA. It's just saying that's a factor as well. And then someone comes in like immediately making my point. How are you making excuses for DA? I'm like, I'm literally not making an excuse for DA here. Like, I'm telling you that I think that all that could be better. Like my story after the game, it was very, very critical of the coaching staff. Very critical of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
But also, Marshawn Lattimore matters. And I'm sorry, this is going to be the podcast and the publication that talks about it all, that it's nuanced. There's levels to it. Everything matters. It's not all just over here. There's a lot over here, but there's some stuff over here too. And if you can't deduce that, I mean, it's fine. Just listen to something else then. Just don't tell me that we're making excuses for anyone, because we aren't.
Yeah. I don't even read the comments anymore and stuff like that, because that ain't the audience.
But I read them because there's good-natured people in there that want to have like genuine conversations, and they care about this. And our whole thing is built on those people. It's just the loudest people come in screaming about the other stuff, and it's just like that's ends up being what you kind of hear, because it's just there's just so much of it.
I read them. I read the comments if they tweet them at me, but just like the timeline heat, I just gotta stay away from it. If you tweet at me, I'm coming. I'm gonna talk football with you like I always do. But I'm not jumping in random comments with arguments. My bad, y'all. I gotta turn I was gonna say turn the cheek, but I'll turn the
Here's the thing
shoulder.
though, like the people that are like the loudest about, some of the stuff and that, come at us with the defense and all that stuff. So I'm curious though, like how they analyze some of the stuff because like if they had ran on 3rd and 1 and it gets stuffed,
Not what's your
what
new
is
excuse, right?
and
Yeah, what's
yeah,
the new
and they
excuse?
still lose the game. How are you viewing that? Or like
Yeah,
let's say on that punt that everyone was mad at. And I think that they've been my thing coming out of the Cincinnati game, I thought they lost that game because they played to not lose. Honestly, I did, and that was my criticism, and I've criticized them for that multiple times this season.
repeatedly. Yeah,
I don't think it's a one size fits all. Every single game, you take the same approach. I think in the way this game was being played, it was conservative, and when they punted, I actually thought in the moment that was the right choice. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't, but in the moment, I thought it was the right choice because of the way the game was playing out. It was low scoring, the defense was playing well, and it was a field position battle at that point. Now, I'm just saying though, if they had gone for it there and they didn't get it, they give Tom Brady a short field and they lose because of it, are you still agreeing with the analytics? And that my point here is that I don't think everything has to be result-based analysis. I think that you look at the process sometimes, but I don't think that there's a lot of that going on. It's just like right, wrong, bad, in people just are kind of looking at how everything happens and that's it. And I
I
think some of this stuff is just a little bit more nuanced than the
I
conversation has
think
become. And it's not a defensive DA by saying that.
yeah,
Clearly not
yeah,
a
yeah.
defensive DA.
No, I mean, I'm not going to defend Da, because I
I'm
think
not either.
he has all the criticism he's getting, he deserves it because you're playing a competitive sport, and when you become a head coach of the NFL, you open yourself up for criticism. Plain and simple, right? I'm an engineer. When I write code and I try to push it to the repository, if it's bad, then somebody judges it. Like that's just the nature of it. I'm not going to defend it, but I'm also I guess my take is this, right? And then we'll get back into some more football stuff. But in life, nothing is really binary. Like nothing is either right or wrong. Like me and my wife argue. It's usually like, oh, I probably could have did this and you could have did this a little bit better, right? Sometimes it's more me than her. Sometimes it's more her than me. Sometimes it's split down the middle. And I think that's exactly how I see this team. I think that when you look at the injuries and the coaching this year, I think those are the biggest reasons why this
Yep.
team is not good. Right? How much is it injury? How much is it coaching? I don't know. I don't even know if I care. It's just a lot of both. You know what I mean? It's like if you got, if your credit score is like the worst or almost the worst, you just got bad credit, right? The Saints got bad credit on coaching and injury history, injury luck, right? And so that's for this season. And so that's just those are the facts, man. It's not necessarily it has to be all coaching or it has to be all one thing or another. It's just like
Fair.
here are the things that can cause it, and we're talking about it. So just answer the question, man. Do you think that Da is at this point, right? Because there's more games to play. They're a bye. Maybe they come out of the bye and win all these games. Maybe they come out of the bye and lose all these games. We don't know. Maybe they split them, right? But do you just on the trajectory that he's on now? Do you think he is on pace to be the coach for the Saints next year?
Just the way they operate, I'd be surprised if he's not. I would be surprised if they make that move. I think some stuff would have to go really wrong over these last few weeks, and
Mm,
I don't necessarily see it yet. I think one of the biggest issues that DA is going to have though is I think this was a season to put currency in the bank and
mm,
kind of
mm.
win some games, build up
That's a
some
good point.
goodwill because I think going forward there's a path where maybe you're getting older and if you don't find the quarterback, maybe the roster isn't as good a year from now and
Yep.
some things change and
Yep.
I think now he's in a race of trying to save his job long term, keep his job long term versus where this roster is headed. And I don't know if those things kind of line
They
up
don't
in the
fit.
same place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
So
don't fit. They don't
so
fit.
this was the year to show like, hey, like I'm the brilliant coach, like I can do all this stuff. I'm really good. And then, then maybe you hear it a little bit more clearly going forward where
Yeah.
oh, all right. The players, the personnel just isn't good enough, or the injuries have affected it. But I think that you have to have some credit for people to look at those things with some nuance. And they're nervous about you coming in, and now all this stuff goes wrong. And I think going forward is just going to be a little bit harder to clean up the mess.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. So do you in your opinion, if you were Mickey, what would you be looking to do? Like at this point? Like what would your thought process be? And you can answer, fire him or I mean fire him, get new head coach. But what's your thought? I don't really care if you want to get rid of him or not. I'm just more interested in like how would you approach it if you were Mickey? Like what would you be looking at what would be the factors that would drive your decision making? There's enough people telling me that they want DA fired. I don't think they need us for that.
I think it's 100% how they finish the season. If they keep playing hard, I think that's everything. And it's easy to keep playing hard when you can walk in there and sell reasonably,
Mhm.
in no one's looking at you crazy when you say, okay, the playoffs are still alive. That's over. Like no one's
Oh,
hearing that
I
now.
didn't believe I
No
didn't
one's
believe
hearing that
that.
now.
I got off of that 5 weeks ago. I know
But it
people
was
were
still
talking
real.
about
It
that,
was still real on
but
Monday.
it wasn't real though. It was
It was.
possible,
It
but
was.
it
If they
wasn't
won this,
happening.
if they won this game, then Tampa's going to play San Fran and Cincinnati. Like it was real. It
But
was definitely possible. It was extremely realistic. Like there was a scenario where,
you're right. But texting me, I never.
yeah, I didn't think so. And I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs either. But I mean, it was a thing
It
that
was possible though.
if
Yeah,
you're going into that room with those people who are inclined to believe, that's just
right.
kind of as an athlete, like you believe in those things. You aren't
That's
you
fair.
and you kind of stay in that pursuit. Okay, clock's not done yet. It's just like how Tampa won that last game. It's just like
That's fair.
athletes are kind of
That's
built to
fair.
believe that stuff. So you could walk in there and sell them that hope, that idea. Okay,
He
we get
had
this
to.
together.
Yeah, he
We
had
get
to.
healthy. Just stay alive long enough. Oh, Marshawn's coming, Pete Werner's coming, all this stuff. Like people are going to buy into that, but that's done now. So now that that's done, it's strictly on, can DA motivate them and do they want to be motivated? And that's
Yeah.
that's all you're looking for these next few weeks. And I think DA's aware of that too. You listen to his last conference call. First question, it's just to get it going. I asked him, hey, what stood out on the film review? Very first words out of his mouth was, they played hard. And he's letting you know that these guys are still playing for me. And there's a reason he said that. He knows why he said it. I know why he said it. Everybody knows why he said it. It was just, that's what's important right now. These guys are playing hard. And as it pertains to him,
You got
that's
to
the
keep
most
him,
important thing. Yeah.
and you got
And
to
then,
keep him.
yeah. And then for everybody else, the next two questions were, do you have confidence in Pete Carmichael, and are you firing anybody? For everybody that wants to be like, oh, you guys ask them all softballs. Like, no, we don't. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
I
not
mean,
going to answer that, but okay.
well,
Yeah.
he said he believes in Pete, and he said he isn't firing anyone during the season. So I mean, and
Mm.
everyone was real mad about the last one. I mean, I get it. It's the end of the season. Like nothing. I think
Yeah, I
at this
mean, it's a
point,
wrap. Yeah,
yeah, I
it's a
think at this point there's 4 games. You kind of evaluate it and see where it goes. Like anything that would happen right now would just be symbolic, and I
I
would roll
mean,
my eyes at a symbolic gesture right now, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on there.
I like if he fired someone right now, I'd be like, "Oh, you're looking for a scapegoat." Like that's just kind of how it would go, and everybody else would see it the same way. Like it's not the
I
time.
don't
Like it
think you
just doesn't
gain
make.
anything by firing nobody right now.
You
Like,
aren't saving your season right now, and there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
unless there's
yeah.
somebody like I said you really want to evaluate in a role, there's no other reason to do it.
Yeah, you're getting in front of the scapegoating. You're like, all right,
Yeah,
this was the problem. That's what it'll come across as, and it won't come across as, the responsibility that he should be, standing in front of and taking, and like maybe going for it on some fourth downs or trusting the analytics or whatever, right? I mean, that's a subjective discussion, but I think that it would come across as you're trying to deflect to the person that's being fired. And I don't think that's a good move at all, because I think it'll just maybe enrage people more.
yeah.
To be honest with you.
And I think you
Why it's not
erodes.
you, DA? You fire yourself. I can just see the comments now. Go ahead.
And if you do it right now, I think you probably erode some trust with your staff and your players and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
I think it's just not. It's just at
Yeah.
some point quickly after the season, you got to make some of those decisions. That I think that's the appropriate time to do it.
I agree. I agree. And I'm just to answer the questions I asked you. Do I think DA will be the head coach next year? I would based on Mickey Loomis and just what I think and how they move. Right now, my guess is yes. I would not make a bet on that in no way, shape, or form. I feel no confidence in it.
Yeah.
My guess, what I do, I'm probably leaning toward. I would be looking to replace. I could make a case for replacing and not replace though, and I know people. I'm probably gonna get flamed for that, but I think that. And you said it to me earlier this year. It just got me thinking, like, if you lay a coach off and you fire a coach after 1 year, is it harder to get the next coach? That's the reason. That's my reasoning for maybe not making the move. The other side is there's only 32 of these jobs, so if it's available, guys are not gonna, where is it gonna be Sean Payton and the Raiders, where you're like, oh man, I don't think that's a good opportunity for me because of stability. I just don't know, right? So I don't know how to navigate that part because I'm not versed enough in, head coaching politics to really know. But that would be one of the reasons I would think about that. And the other reason would be, and we'll probably talk about this on future pods because man, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But like, does it make sense to reload in 2024?
So on the one and done thing, I think they would be fine after the season. When we were talking about that before, it was when people wanted him like fired in like October. It was
Oh,
like
okay,
if they
okay.
fire him in October right now, you are just a completely dysfunctional circus franchise that
Mm-hmm.
you know you're getting the bottom of the barrel candidates in. I think if you go the whole season, I mean Tony Dungy was out here in questioning the coaching in public on Twitter after the game. I think people, if they
Yeah.
made a move after the season, I think people would be able
Okay.
to see it and kind of logically say, okay, A, B, and C went wrong. Okay, this was, but if you do it 5, 6 games into someone's tenure, like
Right.
someone's coming in is going to be like, man, no way. Like they'll just,
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
going to get mad on Twitter and I'm going to get fired. Like that, you can't let it, you can't run your organization like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think they're at a point. The same thing with the Raiders. Even from a distance, I don't
Bro, the
know enough.
Raiders
I
are
don't know
like,
enough about what's going on with the Raiders right now. But if Josh McDaniels got fired right now, I wouldn't be like, that's an unstable
I think
franchise.
the Raiders. I think
The
the
Colt
Raiders. See, I think the Raiders are in a position where they may get that though. I could see the Raiders getting looked at as being unstable, but
Well,
I,
through a history, but I mean,
through the history, yeah, through the history.
McDaniels alone wouldn't do that. I don't think anyone would be like, man, they didn't give him enough. I think it's a situation where and there's a couple parallels here to be fair. I mean, I'm not saying it's an exact thing, but the parallels here are that they were a good team with high aspirations that made a lot of moves operating as if they were going to be, a
Contender.
playoff team in that division. And they fell significantly short. So they don't have the same level of I think just looking to like Jacksonville, I think Jacksonville, you aren't necessarily getting Peterson isn't necessarily being viewed off of winning 8, 9, 10 games. It's okay, this is a bad team. They're trying to rebuild a culture. You have a lot of time to kind of figure that out. And then it's a multi-year plan. Saints, Raiders were both teams where you're looking at them and you are judging them off of did you make the playoffs? And the answer in both is spectacularly no, they did not.
And
And
both of them traded away their first round picks in the way
yeah,
to
so
make that push.
I mean that's the level here. So not everything is evaluated the same way. So if McDaniels went now, if he got fired in October, it's like, man, this is a train wreck. What are you doing? You got to let this guy play out his season. I think that's when people start looking at it scared. But at the end of the season, I don't think the Raiders would have a hard time hiring somebody. I don't think the Saints would have a hard time at the end of the season hiring somebody.
Yeah, well, I mean that's like I said, that's because that's one of the things I thought about. I guess two of the things I took away from one is don't hire ex Broncos head coaches because
Ooh,
McDaniels and D came through there. One thing I think that hurts there is like you saw the previous guy hold it together in the same circumstance,
well,
and
high ranking Denver coaches would be the lesson.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And so yeah, and yeah, so it's just like you've seen it work in with the same thing, and it's like, okay, well, it must be something with this guy, right? So I think that makes it harder on him. Like I said, the other reason was, I think a lot of things that coaches look at when they choose teams are like, roster and assets, right? And I just think this year coming up, now if you get a good coach that wants to come in and you believe in the vision, I think that makes, and then you kind of make, you can't really, I don't know if you if I'm a GM, do I lay off a head coach knowing that somebody else is available? Right? Like if Brandon
You got to stop
Staley,
saying layoff, man. Head coaches don't get laid
my
off.
bad, bro. I'm an engineer, bro, and our whole industry is getting laid off. So I'm like, so my bad. It's like today is the last day for like 100 people in my company today. So layoffs are like
Yeah, I
but
got
you're
you.
right.
I got you. I
Yeah,
got
no,
you.
you got me though. You got me. That's fair. That's fair. But but yeah, it's like, when you look at the Saints, they have no first round draft pick. The roster's looking older. It was at first it was like, man, this roster's loaded. Now is it really? Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, but is this is it a best year? Is it the best year to have a guy want to come in and say, all right, this team has some assets that I can look to build upon, right? Now, the flip side of it is if a good head coach is out there, then he can be the good head coach for the down year and then reload up the next year. But my preference, I'm just thinking like, man, you might just have to reload up for 2024. I know that's not popular. People don't want to hear that. I have always been against trading away future picks. I never like it. I never have. I think it's a bad idea. It's a crapshoot. And this is not in hindsight. I've just been consistent about this. So I would maybe consider reloading up for the 2024 when you have some assets. You'll have a couple of first round draft picks potentially based on what you do with Sean. If you push that out, I think there's benefits to it. We'll talk about it more, um, but it does go into when I look at DA and say, okay, well, it's the year after the year where you want to reload up and then kind of make a push. You'll have more draft capital, maybe use next year to get the cap under control a little bit. There's some things that you can do in this next year that can do some team building for your franchise going forward. So that's kind of my thought process behind the maybe keeping them around. But it's not because of anything he's done. And I say this professionally, but it's not because of anything that he's done as a coach why I would want to keep him. It's more about the future of where I think would help the franchise long term.
I mean, some of the stuff they did this offseason made some sense to me, though. Like, I can't sit here and lie about it. Like even the trade in the draft, like I hated it as it pertained to the quarterback future, but the idea of like, okay, this team thinks it can make a push and they're moving their assets up because their roster's old and all that. Like it made some sense. It's just and even if they were in the quarterback situation and then they made the playoffs and it was still apparent that they needed to make a move there, it wouldn't hurt as bad. Like it wouldn't
It
be
wouldn't
this.
hurt it bad. You're right.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right,
It's the
right.
fact that they did that and were ass like this year. That's the thing. That's the thing that makes it bad is that they did that and they are not a good football team. And that's the thing that makes it horrible. That kills them. And
I'm taking if there's a quarterback in this draft I love, I would go for it. I would try to figure it out. If there's not, then I just reload up for 2024.
yeah.
If you
And if
love a court,
you're
go
doing
ahead.
that, then keeping the coach around too. Also, if you don't see the immediate path to success, like I think that maybe, and people are gonna hate this, like that maybe lends itself to like, all right, well, next year probably not gonna be this, or this. So let's
Running
have
back, yeah.
let's have an elongated, let's allow this evaluation period to play out a little bit longer because you did have this stuff happen and that happened. And maybe, with this or that, there can be some growth. I think maybe then
See,
you
I agree
wait.
with that, but not for the same reason. I say it would be totally to reload up, not based on anything that I saw as
Well, that's the other side of the coin. If it
yeah.
doesn't work, it doesn't matter, and it kind of helps your agenda.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said, you can get your capital in order. You can reload up in 2024. Like I said, if there's a quarterback you love this year, I'm just gonna say it right now. Olave, whatever pick you got from Sean, I would. If I love a quarterback, then that's the move I'm making. I would take the most valuable asset I have and try to go get the most valuable asset in the NFL. It's a crapshoot. Quarterbacks, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not, but I would do if there's a quarterback I love, that will get this franchise turned around and that will bring a coach here, right? If you want a good coach, have a quarterback. Like I don't think it's a surprise that Sean left a year after Drew left. If Sean wouldn't have been tired of coaching if he drafted Patrick Mahomes, okay? Sean got tired. That's just my belief. So if you got a good quarterback, you can get a good coach. And I think that just does things for your franchise. Now, he might have been tired of coaching, really, but you wouldn't have got tired if 15 is your quarterback or Josh Allen, right? I've never seen it. I don't believe it. And so, if you can get that guy, then fine, right? Go get him. Otherwise, I think it just makes sense to, lick your wounds a little bit, get your cap under control. And then, you got a chance to be a really attractive franchise going forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. Just one more thing. Talk a little bit about the Mark Ingram situation, him running out of bounds and him being injured a little bit. I know there's been a lot of conversation about that, and quite a few people had comments. So, what happened, and what's your take on it?
He had a MCL injury. He got hurt 2 minutes before that play, got cleared, came back, ran the ball, got hurt again. I mean, it's when you're in this situation, that stuff it hits and looks different, and it looks like a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a mistake. I mean, and when the medical staff has had some stuff that, fair or not, the optics of it are going to be that they screwed that up. I think in that situation, they did screw it up because
Yeah.
his knee got hurt and he went out of bounds. End of the day, you should be able to gain the last 6 inches needed to get the first down. they couldn't do that. So it's
Yeah.
just a series of follies on that situation. And
Self-inflicted wounds just over
yeah,
and over and
eh,
over.
I feel like he shouldn't have been in the game. I mean, that's just my own personal opinion. You get hurt and then you come back in and the knee goes, and there's just no way to really look at it other than, okay, he shouldn't have been playing. I mean,
There's
that's it.
too much smoke. There's too much smoke around this team and their handling of injuries, in my opinion.
I think some of the conversations unfair, but there's definitely
It's
some
too much
like,
smoke though, regardless
okay,
of if
like
it's
Marshawn Lattimore's going into week 8 now, so, like, why isn't there the right diagnosis there? Like, what's going on? There's definitely something off right now. I don't think it's all is bad, but there's some bad, yes.
yeah, yeah. And with the Marshawn thing, that's a good point you make, by the way. But at least if you get the initial diagnosis wrong, the guy's not you're not trying to he's not on the field at the end of the day. Maybe he's saying I'm
Yeah,
not playing
that's
or
good.
whatever. But
No, I already wanted to play this week, and they were kinda like, "No, you need just take the time."
see,
Like, this
and
is
that's
smart.
how it
This is
should be.
smarter. This is smarter, yeah.
Yeah, protect. But like the Jameis thing that happened where he was apparently he was injured, this Mark thing, it's just and I'm not I don't know the details of every single thing. That's why I didn't I said it's just a lot of smoke and it's too much because there's too many situations that oh it may be this or it may be that or they should have did this or they should have did that or the plan. I just think that it's too much there and it's something I think they need to get under control because if you're a player these players talk to each other and this stuff is public, right? So I just think it's just something that needs to be it's something that needs to be addressed. I'm not sure if it's the strength and conditioning or if it's just fundamental or the team doctor. I don't know. But it's something that I think it hurts the team a little bit if I'm a player, I would think about, some stuff like that. So all right, man. Well, I had I had more stuff, I had more topics, but we I think we made our thoughts pretty clear on where we stand with the DA stuff. Yeah, we just talk about stuff with nuance and with detail, and we're not making excuses for nothing. We just kind of stating how stuff really is. So, thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you guys for supporting us at NewOrleans.Football. Shout out to our sponsors, Hardhide. Shout out to Firehouse Subs and BETTER Law. I went blank there for a little bit. We appreciate you guys supporting us. Tell somebody to sign up for NewOrleans.Football. You guys have a good weekend. Enjoy your bye week off. And yeah, we out.